everybody. Welcome back to another My Wealth Journey episode. We are involved in this great series. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows something about it. And that series is all about connecting you with different people across the My Wealth Journey community who can give you advice on different topics, everything from student loans to buying a home. Today is Valentine's Day, so we had to do a little bit of romance and finance for you. We have with us Marissa Nelson, who is going to be talking to us about everything related to money and intimacy. Now, before we get too deep in it, and hey girl, hey Marissa, I'm going to give you a little bit of her background, just so you can make sure you know she's credentialed. You know I don't just bring anybody on this show, but we're going to make sure you know these credentials. So Marissa Nelson is the founder of IntimacyMoons. She has helped hundreds of couples to rediscover lasting connections while overcoming all of life's challenges together. Her extensive clinical knowledge of couples issues and combined with her accessible and contemporary style makes her the place to go for a conversational, warm, and fun therapy session. As an internationally recognized expert, she is the creator of IntimacyMoons Couples Retreats, a couple retreat that is rated by Women's Health and Bustle magazines as one of the top couples retreats worldwide. We're global in this right now. She has also been featured, yes. She has also been featured in over 100 national and international media publications, including, y'all get ready for this list, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, CBC, CNN Health, Glamour, Latina Enterprise, and Black Enterprise. Marissa is a licensed marriage and family therapist by the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. She is a certified sex therapist and a certified sexuality educator by the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. And one of my favorites, she is my soror, a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. You see, she's bringing the lovely poppin' pink. So let me tell y'all real quick before we get into these questions, how I know this is about to be a good conversation. Marissa and I had a virtual brunch yesterday, and it was supposed to just be 45 minutes. That conversation ended up being like 2.5, 3 hours long, and it was virtual. And so that meant there was no servers interrupting us. There were no mimosas. I don't think either of us even ate anything. We just had really great conversation for like a good 2 or 3 hours. So the fact that that can happen just naturally, I know this is going to be a great conversation for y'all. And she is going to give us all the tea. You know, I have my little teacup ready for today's conversation. Girl, you didn't need a teacup. This is mainly because I like to sip eucalyptus and make sure, keep it healthy. Okay, so let's get started. What is your wealth journey? Tell us about your story. Tell us about how you got here.
Yeah, I think for me, my wealth journey started by, I always wanted to be the Black Carrie Bradshaw.
Yes.
I used to love watching Sex and the City. And I just thought it was so amazing that she had this column. But when I was growing up, especially when I was in college, I always thought that there needed to be better dating advice. Like I would grab a Cosmo and I would be like, well, this advice does not seem, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel inclusive. It doesn't feel empowering. And so I ended up, before I was in public relations, and then something was missing. There was an element that was missing. I love to connect. I love meeting people. I really love taking care of my clients, but there was something that was missing. And when I became a therapist, I feel like I really came into myself. My mission was always to support and uplift couples. We don't learn how to do relationships. We don't come with a manual. Partners don't come with a manual. And as a family therapist, I believe, especially when I started out this work, I was working with small kids, and I would get referrals with little kids who were acting out at school. And a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists who said, oh, well, just let's give them some meds. They'll be fine. And I'm like, no, don't medicate that baby. Bring that baby's parents into the office. And the parents would come into the office, and I would find out that the reasons why these kids were acting out in many cases was because there was discord going on at home between the parents. Mm-hmm. And when kids feel unsafe and kids don't feel that sense of safe haven, then of course they act out. Of course they have issues with, connecting with authority figures. So being a family therapist to me and supporting couples is a mission to really fortify the family. That if you are able to strengthen your relationship, if you are able to deepen your emotional and spiritual and communication and your intimacy on every level, it's not just what happens between the two of you. It's not just what happens in the couple. It flows down to your children. It flows down to how you show up in the workplace. It shows up and, flows down to how you show up as a daughter, a son, a person in the world, a friend. It affects all parts of us because, again, I always say, like, we cannot isolate who we are to like one aspect of our life. Mm-hmm. Like, if you do not know how to connect and be vulnerable in your relationship with your partner, I bet you might have challenges with your friendships, or you might have challenges with your boss. So I believe that this is a way in strengthening your relationship. You are strengthening the relationship with yourself, and you are giving space and room for yourself to kind of grow in all of these different places and spaces in your life. That's why this work is so impactful to me. As far as my own journey and how I got to IntimacyMoons, it was kind of like, the universe and God is very interesting. And he's kept my life she has kept my life incredibly interesting. Ended up, my husband and I relocated to the Bahamas for 5 years. And I was in private practice seeing clients, and clients would come into my office and say, "Oh my God, Marissa, we had the best sex of our life. We went on vacation. Oh my God, we were trying to figure out whether we were going to stay together or get divorced. We went on vacation." So I was kind of like, everybody's going on vacation to work on their relationship. But when you go on your vacations, you take your baggage with you. Mm-hmm. So it was important for me to blend a luxury, a curated experience with clients in mind to skill build, work through all the things that they need to on their precious time off, because we're all busy. So if you have that one vacation a year to connect, 66% of couples travel to work on their relationship. It is really that time that you spend on vacation has to matter. It has to count. Yeah. And so that's why I founded IntimacyMoons Couples Retreats. It is, the heart and soul of what we do, and really just giving the tools that couples need to move beyond a lot of the issues that they face. So I see clients who are recovering from affairs, clients who have been disconnected emotionally or intimately since the birth of their child, or even clients who have seen their kids launch into college and now it's just the two of them. And they're like, it's been about the kids and what the kids need. And now that our bodies have changed and our life have changed, where are we? And I think that the reason that I love our retreats so much is because it's not about gimmicks. It's not about, just doing a trust building exercise. This is digging deep. This is a depth of work in understanding how your childhood influences your present. What are the things that are holding you back from one another, and how you can co-create a new reality together. So I've been doing IntimacyMoons since 2015. And, of course, the pandemic will have all of us be scrappy, lean, innovative. And so I have worked with clients continuously digitally, and now we'll be coming back online with dates in St. Lucia for this summer.
Yes.
So that is my wealth journey.
We can end this right here because of everything you said. Just wonderful. So yes, there's not a dating guide. You watch whatever you can absorb and observe, and then just process it. And you have whatever you're carrying in life, that you're just showing up. And for some reason, and we're going to get into this, people feel there's a way they have to show up in relationships in order to be ready. But the fact that you have these retreats. Now, I did not know that people, I heard one of my friends tell me that people go on trips to as like the last straw for their relationship. And I was like, well, that's counterintuitive. If I don't like you at home, like, why would I want to go on a nice vacation and spend money still not liking you? But to hear that 66% of couples do that, I'm like, well, and I guess it works for people.
But you know why? In the routine of life, and then I'm going to tie this to finances, right? Mm-hmm. So in the routine of life, people are it's habits. I would say habitual way of being is that we've all learned, okay, what's your daily schedule? I wake up, I have my avo toast, I get my smoothie, I look at my phone, I see the news, I do this, I do that, I go to work, I do this. Everybody has their own routine. And those habits create and reinforce behavior. When you go on vacation, there is a permission that people give themselves to tap into that sense of spontaneity, that excitement, that relaxation, that not routine. Like you allow yourself the permission to do things differently on vacation. And you need to be able to give yourself the permission to do that every day. We just don't. So I look at vacation as a reset to be able to connect back to yourself, to be able to find yourself in the midst of your life and your relationship. Yeah. And hopefully during our time together, you bottle that and bring it back into your everyday life. That's why I think there's powerful around environment, vacation, and how you allow yourself, give yourself room and space for relaxation, and also give yourself room and space for maybe some conversations, maybe some vulnerability. And how this ties back to finances for me is that I look at the way that couples deal with anybody, the way that they deal with finances is really through the lens of their coping skills and how they view money. I just think that money is not, everybody can say you got to have a growth mindset, you have to have wealth mindset, you have to have all of these mindsets, right? Mindsets are great, but you're really paddling upstream because you're coming with conditioning. You're conditioning from your family of origin, the conditioning from living in your house. Maybe you didn't grow up with a lot of money. And maybe it was reinforced to you that, oh, well, every dollar that you have, like, we got to help this person needs help, this person needs help. Right? So you're used to being able to help and money going out and flowing out, but not coming in. Or maybe you're just used to saying like, why save it? Like treat yourself because life is rough and I work hard. And when I get it, like I need it. Right. So everybody has their own conditions and conditioning around money and that upper limit that they will hit. That even if they want to make more or do more, that is not in alignment with the messages that they got when they were younger. So people will self-sabotage. People will lean into their coping mechanisms. People will either kind of like, oh, well, my partner is better with finances. I'm just going to leave it to them. And I don't have to engage in that level. Right? Because then I feel like somebody's taking care of me because I've been the one who's been taking care of everybody my whole life. So now I'm in a relationship and somebody else is better with money. Great. You take the mantle. Right. Or it could be, I am so used to not having, I am so used to everybody depending on me, relying on me. If our house cards go down, then everything goes down. So no matter what, I will never go back to where I was before or where my family was before. So there's this very tight grip on money where there's not flexibility because there's like, oh, financial freedom and I have to do this and we have to save everything, that there's not flexibility to even enjoy. That's a coping mechanism. Control is safety. So there are ways in which even our control mechanisms affect the way that we see money and our relationship with money. So I think that if anything I want you to take away with is what is your own relationship with money? We're talking about intimacy, we're talking about relationships with our partner, but what is your own individual relationship with money?
Oh, I love it. Yes. Where are you as the person to be able to come forward and be in a relationship? And that actually gets to the next question I wanted to ask perfectly. It's like you knew the script. So amongst millennials, definitely, we are not, the statistics say that we are not getting married at the same rate. We're not buying homes at the same rate. I disagree with some of that. But the response tends to be, we aren't in a position to do that. Because millennials are racked with student loan debt, because they sometimes have to stay at home with their parents because the economy has not built them up in a way, and including what they do to build themselves up. It's not like they're just waiting for a handout, but in general, they don't feel like they are in a position to move forward in a relationship, much less get married, much less purchase a home. There's all these pressures that they already feel they have. And they think that I need to have myself completely together before I enter a relationship. And so what you mentioned earlier was you do need to understand your relationship with money. You do need to understand your triggers and your coping mechanisms. But at what point is it you can enter a relationship knowing that you're still working on yourself, because we're always a work in progress, versus you need to just sit still and heal from whatever trauma, from whatever baggage you're carrying? Like, how do you know when you're ready to make that pivot into bringing someone into your life and to being more serious and intentional in your dating life?
I think, the statistics around millennials I get, but it lacks context. Millennials are one of the generations that have gone through the recession and the pandemic, all when trying to launch their careers, right? So 2008 to 2012, like this is when a lot of millennials possibly getting out of college, possibly, kind of stepping out of their parents and really wanting to build careers. And then the recession happens. Right. And then the pandemic happens, all these years later. So our relationship as millennials with money is a little different. Many times, especially when things like that are threatening to our sense of security, because that's what these financial crises are. With the pandemic, it threatens our sense of security. Yes. And we have to change things and do things differently than maybe other people would have done. And so what are some of the lessons that we could have learned, right? Throwing it out there as a hypothesis, maybe the relationship with money is very different. That, I want to get on solid ground. I want to make sure that no matter what, nothing can ever take me down again, and I will not be without anymore. So there is that protection mode that happens with money and the outlook on money and relationships. As far as what that means when trying to find a partner, it's interesting. Clients come into the office all the time, and I have single clients who will say, I just need to find somebody who already has it all together. And I just want to find somebody who I need to find somebody who's my equal. I need to find somebody who's equally yoked, because I've done all these things and I just don't have any time. Marissa, I just don't have any time to deal with anybody. I'm like, okay, cool. So here are a couple of options.
I am guilty.
Here are a couple of options. Personally, as I explore and do this work with some of my clients, I do think that there's not enough value placed on growing together. That many times we think that things have to be baked in order for that person to be the right partner, the right match for us to be able to feel like we can invest and move forward. Where I believe it is about, how do you find somebody whose values, whose intentions, whose ethos aligns with yours? Is there that person who is an entrepreneur who may not have it yet, but has the ambition, the passion, the drive to serve others, to help their community, to make this world a better place? Okay, maybe they don't have their 401k stacked, but they have everything that it takes. And you together can combine your skills to love each other, to nurture each other, to build each other so that you can grow together. Isn't that a much interesting, richer experience of not only relationship, but really supporting one another throughout these different phases of your life, as opposed to saying the cake got to be baked, or else I'm not with it? Because again, on the opposite side of that, for a lot of the people who may have it together, they may be lacking some of those core qualities that you are looking for. Do they value making you a priority? Do they value putting you first? Do they value everything else that's happening externally and what other people think about their car, their accomplishments? And do they value that more than they value you? And if so, they also may not be the best match for you.
When I tell you the book that you could write off of that alone, the constant battle that I see with people saying, and thank you so much for telling it straight and telling it like it is, the battle that I see with, this person does not have it together the way that I want them to have it together. And again, I've been guilty of this at times. And so rather than wait to see what their problems are, I'm going to protect myself, put a little bit of myself out there, maybe entertain a little bit of company. But as soon as I see they are not what I want them to be, knowing that no one can ever be the exact image of what you want, like you've got to be able to concede and to negotiate and to accept someone for who they are, because you're not going to be perfect yourself. Like the fact that you can have that and grow. But at the root of it, do you have a healthy foundation of who you are, and what your deal breakers are? And are you able to communicate effectively? I feel like those are just to the foundation.
And it's about intention as well. Nobody's saying to like, you don't have to save anybody. You don't have to feel like, oh, I have to rescue somebody. It's not about that. It's about intention. If you are getting into a relationship with someone and having honest conversations about, I want to build my life, my wealth. I want to build a career that is really meaningful for me. This is meaningful for me because I'm first generation into this country, or my family went through so much. And even for me to be here, like I'm the embodiment of their every dream. So it's important for me to build that moving forward for our children, for my children. And so this is the foundation that I'm trying to build now. These are my financial goals. These are the things that are important to me. What's important to you? Why is that important to you? It's not that I don't feel like you can't ask questions. People are not asking the right questions. People are like, do you want a baby or no? Are you getting ready to get married or no? Okay, then you're not the one for me. It's like, no, we have to start understanding what are people's intentions? What is their character? Who are they, behind closed doors? How do they treat people? What is their vision for their life? And start really looking for qualities in our potential dating partners, with people things that are more meaningful and tangible, and seeing how that weaves into your life, into your goals. So yes, if you have debt, it is okay to talk to a partner, or if a partner has somebody that you're dating has debt, it is okay to date them. But it is also okay to come up with a plan to say, okay, well, I understand that you have debt. Like, let's talk about like, how have you thought about working through that? Like, are there ways you have a plan on working through that? And not from like a blame or shame perspective, right, because just to understanding, just to understand what their own relationship with money is, and even what what they can learn, because many times people think that everything is fixed. It's not. Maybe they haven't had the guidance, a friend, somebody to be able to walk through and say, you know what, here's another way to think about money. Sometimes when you get in relationships and when you get married and somebody has a different upbringing or mindset around money, they're able to say, hey, these are the ways that I invest, and these are the ways in which I save, and I can share these things with you. It could also be a teaching opportunity for you to get clear on what kind of financial relationship you have with yourself and the financial future that you have for yourself, but also knowing that everybody doesn't have to have that in order to be a good partner and in order for you to build together.
Yes. And you touched on something I want to kind of pull that string and go a little deeper.
Yeah.
So having these discussions, there's the discussions you have on the first date, and people love to go to coffee. I'm not a fan of coffee for a first date, but those are like what's your favorite color? What genre of movies do you like? What's your favorite food? You also might be doing that through the dating apps or whatever, just texting beforehand. And then the conversations get a little bit more, understanding the person in a little bit deeper, and beyond just the kind of shallow, bubbly, soft, lightweight questions. At what point should you bring up these heavier topics? Like, this is how I feel about divorce. This is how I feel about finances. If you have kids, when do you want to bring them in? Like, do you think there's a set time when it's right, when it's safe, when it's prudent to go deeper? And how do you know you're with someone who you're ready to have that with? Is it just like a gut feeling? Are you asking these questions and hoping that they don't run or act crazy?
Oh, no.
Like, how do you approach that conversation?
So I'll say it like this. Have you ever met someone for the first time? You just met them, but there was a depth of conversation because both of you were taking that emotional risk. Both of you were sharing. Both of you were going back and forth. Both of you were bringing your experiences and your fears to the table. And that gave space for you to have deeper conversations. How come we don't do that? How come we don't do that with our romantic life? You know, like
the example you said, I was like, that was what the guy was dating. It was great. It was supposed to be like a 1 hour dinner at a nice restaurant. And we ended up talking till like 2 a.m. We walked to this nice little park right out. This is when I was in DC, right outside the White House. And it was a great conversation. Now, the next day, I was like, what? Why did I share all that with this person I just met? But that was the beginning of a beautiful, healthy relationship.
Exactly. And that's how you know the difference. You know the difference because, and I'm not trying to be, I'm trying to have you tune back into yourself. So many times when people give advice, it's like, oh, this is what you need to look in for the other person. This is what you need to tell the other person. This is what you need to do with the other person, or wait for the other person to do this. No, I want you to connect back to your own truth. Like you can feel it in your body when you're talking to someone and the conversation is shallow, or when you're talking to someone, you're trying to ask a deeper question, trying to get to know them, or you feel like there's a wall coming up. You feel like there's some sort of barrier. You feel like they're not ready to go there yet. It's okay. It doesn't mean that it's you. It's not personal. It's just not where they're at. And that's okay too. You're at where you're at. They're at where they're at. And that's totally fine. It's just about that might be an indicator that may or may not be the person for you, or there may be some connection building that would have to happen for that person to get to a place where they can feel more open and vulnerable, but you can feel it in your body. So when I say like, oh, when is the right time to ask these questions? Personally, even just the, dating apps and the way that people date, people are very visually stimulated by someone. People are very physically turned on by someone. And then the attraction leads. And then sometimes you can handle the weird conversations. And then it gets to a point where physicality or attraction and all of that has happened. And then you don't really know the person, or you don't really know their values, or you don't really know how you just know that you really like them. Mm-hmm. But it's being fueled by things that don't always build the healthiest of partnerships. And so I think that it's really important to, if there are things that are important to you, like your financial future, like being able to feel open and vulnerable. And I know that's not always going to happen on a first date. But if you've been dating someone for a while and you're still like, I don't know this person, like, why is it so hard to talk to this person? That might be an indicator that may not be your person, because your person and you are going to risk. And all relationships require emotional risk. It is an emotional risk and emotional stretching, two different terms that I use, but emotional risk is, I am going to share this truth with you. And I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's relevant to share this with you because I'm sharing it because it is the essence of who I am. And I'm sharing it with you to give you context about who I am. And if it's received with the openness and the authenticity that it was given, then it is my hope that it's creating space for you to share too. And if that person catches it, but doesn't share it, or doesn't share what's happening for them, and that is a pattern, then that lets you know what kind of relationship you're stepping into.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why, relationships require, whether it's finances or sexuality or anything that you talk about that's on the table. And I don't want to even say that it's a big topic, because it's not, there's more arguments about deciding what to eat at night than there is about a friendly conversation about finances. Like, I don't even think that those are big topics. It's the nervousness that people have when they talk about things. Just don't have nervousness about it. Just have a conversation. It's just going to be just fine. Right. But it's because it's wrapped up in a lot of our insecurities. Money is like that. Our body is like that. Sexuality is like that, because a lot of these topics are tied up in what we think we have or what we think we don't, who we think we are and who we don't think that we are. And so we feel tender about it because we hold it in, we don't talk about it. And then when we share it with somebody, maybe in the past, somebody has made comments to us or made us feel bad about it. And so that's one of the reasons why we feel a little self-conscious about it. But if you want to empower yourself, you have to be able to be brave enough to have meaningful conversations, whether it's with the people that you're dating or with the person you've been with for the last 10 years. I encourage you to step into your brave space. And emotional stretching is that place of risk and sharing and vulnerability, just to be able to say what you mean in a way that is not blaming or shaming or judging the other person. Somebody else's journey before they met you is their journey. If you decide to combine journeys and walk side by side, then there has to be some acceptance, tolerance, and grace for where that person has been and where that person wants to go. Just like you would want them to have that with you.
Ooh. And that is the lesson we walk away with. The fact that you are accepting of you're going to have some emotional risk, you're going to have to do some stretching and creating space and place for someone to be vulnerable while at the same time you're being vulnerable. But recognize what that means for you. Recognize how you respond to that. And if you know whether this isn't right and this is maybe a sign I need to step back, or this is the response that I want to give and receive, and it's working for me. And being able to listen to that. But what I'm hearing a lot is it is personal. It is you knowing yourself and not expecting anyone else to come in and do that work for you. Like you have to be comfortable with knowing yourself and articulating that. And that is definitely something we discussed at My Wealth Journey, the importance of knowing your journey is personal. There might be someone who in your eyes looks like they're a millionaire. You really have no idea what's going on in their life. And there might be someone who looks like a pauper to you and they're less than to you, but really they have a stable understanding of where they're going and what they're doing. And that's worth a lot more than money in the bank, to know your plan, to have your journey, an understanding of your journey and what that means. So thank you. Thank you for giving us this full circle moment. Before we wrap up, and I'm like, I know there are going to be people who are now wanting to attend these intimacy retreats. I'm sure somebody that is listening is like, okay, I need to book a session with Marissa. Because even me, I'm like, well, you know what? I go to therapy and I'm comfortable in who I am. But maybe before I put myself out there dating again, I need to schedule a chat with the good sis Marissa and figure things out. So how can people do that? How can they find you? How can they sign up for these retreats? How can they schedule a therapy session with you?
Absolutely. You can find me at www.IntimacyMoons.com. We have retreats in St. Lucia coming up this summer, and we will be adding Hawaii, which is very exciting in the fall. So on the website, you can find, you can schedule an appointment with me, a free consultation so that I can answer any and all questions that you have. You can follow me on Instagram at IntimacyMoons, and please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn at Marissa Nelson, LMFT.
Yes, all of that. And we're going to include all that information in the caption so people can find you even faster and easier. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up today?
And to everyone, Godspeed on your journey. Much blessings, much excitement, and just wishing you all the connection on Valentine's Day, whether it's connection and reconnection to yourself and the people that you love, or it's with the person that you love as well. So all the best.
And we are sending that love right back to you. Thank you for coming and joining us today on this episode of My Wealth Journey.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.